Hello,
All
hello,
right.
hello. We're doing it. Max, how are you?
Good, good. How are you, King?
I'm very good, thank you. Very good. Yes, thank you very much for joining me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Real pleasure.
It's all good. It is all good. And shout out to Ukraine. We were just talking about that just there. You're in kind of Ukraine. All the best to Ukraine and the people of Ukraine. I heard this morning on the news that Ukraine is going to get a fleet of German and Polish tanks, which
Big news.
should big yeah that should help. So yeah, all the best and all that lot.
I appreciate that a lot. And like to all those who are listening, uh, thank you so much for all the support that we're getting here in Ukraine from. I appreciate it. And after the victory, we will for sure visit all of you personally, hopefully, and celebrate this all together. So again, thank you.
Definitely, definitely. One big meetup will do. And speaking of meetups, there is an event happening in March. So those of you who've been tuning in so far this year will know about the European Chatbot Summit, which VUX World are a part of this year. We're doing a track on day 2 on March the 16th, and it is going to be all about enterprise automation using conversational AI. We've got Vodafone, we've got Love Holidays, LNER, Decathlon, Stepstone, and Total Jobs Group, all sharing the best practice for how to implement conversational AI in the enterprise, use cases, insights. It's presented by our headline sponsor, Core AI, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. If you want to save some money, 30% discount on the tickets if you go to theeuropeanchatbot.com, and you can use the promo code VUXEU23. And we look forward to seeing you there. Uh, so, Max, tell us about Botscrew.
Sure, sure. So I'm Max, the co-founder of Botscrew, and what we are, we're the chatbot. We provide our customers with the end-to-end chatbot development, starting from discovery phase, where we try to understand kind of your business needs, the data that you have now, and what can be automated and how, right? The ecosystem of your tools, et cetera, et cetera.
We may have just lost Max. This happened yesterday, and there's a reason. One of the many stacking up reasons why we will definitely be leaving this platform. I won't tell you exactly what platform this is because I won't bash those the provider, but it is not great. We're going to move back to our old platform. Starting immediately, so we'll give Max a moment to turn up. But while we do wait for Max, I wanted to kind of one of the things I was going to speak to Max about, which is worth kind of drawing up, is obviously ChatGPT is getting a lot of headlines, as it should, because it's pretty good. There's been some mixed headlines, though, actually. Apparently, people in Kenya have been used to basically review and process responses for ChatGPT. And I saw a tweet, actually, as well this week, where somebody went for a machine learning role interview at OpenAI. And the job that they will be tasked with was basically creating code, bug fixing code, and explaining those bug fixes. Welcome back, Max.
Yeah, apologies for that. So we actually got our lights shut off because like this is what we're doing regular turning off of the lights because of the strikes. So that's where it happened live. So
It
I didn't
happened
know that it
live.
would happen.
Live and direct. This we're dealing with it in real time,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
fine. I was going on a bit of a ramble about ChatGPT, but I'll let you finish your introduction to
That's great.
Botscrew first,
Sure, sure,
and
sure.
then we'll get on to ChatGPT. Yeah,
Sounds good, sounds good. So like again, starting from discovery phase, QA, okay, now design of the chatbot, conversational design, of course, then development, quality assurance, and then ongoing improvement to achieve this business result that we set for ourselves at the very beginning, right, over time. And we are actually kind of working with many different companies, industries. Lately, a lot of our chatbots are in healthcare and e-commerce specifically, concentrated on processes automation, specifically customer service automation, of course, and as well as some of the marketing use cases that are quite a kind of successful area for us too.
nice. Sounds good.
Sure.
I was just kind of explaining about ChatGPT when
Hmm.
you you kind of got cut off there. I was kind of explaining about a few things. One is how it's obviously been hyped up tremendously at the moment. It's kicked off a brand new phase of the hype cycle for conversational AI, which we didn't expect and didn't foresee coming. It's been through that phase a few times before. Facebook Messenger went through that phase, and then Alexa went through that phase, and everything kind of goes through that. But then ChatGPT is taking us through that again. What are your thoughts on it so far? And not ChatGPT specifically, we'll talk about that, but like the general craze at the moment.
Yeah, so I think that it's crazy. Like as we just mentioned before in our call, everyone is now calling themselves ChatGPT experts. So like there were blockchain experts and crypto experts, all sorts of experts from the very first days of when this technology comes to life. They're experts in ChatGPT. So overall crazy things. I do feel myself as it was in 2016 with Facebook Messenger launching chatbots, where people actually are now we're getting a lot of the inbound kind of leads coming to us saying, all right, so I want to create a ChatGPT. And all right, so what do you want? ChatGPT. And like what is the problem that we're trying to solve? I don't know, but we have to use ChatGPT. And that's what's happening a lot these days. So I have to explain every time what it's for, what it can do, what it cannot do, why it's not kind of good to just have ChatGPT as an idea without any business needs or a kind of clear ideas of value in mind. But really, really, really big hype. I was not expecting that for sure.
It's crazy. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole last night. And shout out to Martin Redstone. He posted something on LinkedIn, which was it was somebody else that actually posted it, and he reshared it. And it was kind of a bit of a complaint about these kind of like new AI influencers who were kind of like just jumping on the ChatGPT bandwagon. So I thought I want to just have a look for myself. So I went on YouTube, and my wife had gone to bed, and I spent probably about half an hour or 45 minutes, too long, last night, going through and having a look at some of these ChatGPT videos. And they are all absolutely crazy. Like one of them is called 7 Businesses That You Can Start with ChatGPT. And in the video, all the chap does is he's wearing an NFT hoodie. The only thing was missing is he should have been presenting this video from the metaverse, and he would have ticked all the boxes. But all he did in the video is just name a bunch of different companies like Perplexity AI, like Jasper AI, basically tools that are not built using ChatGPT, tools that are built using either GPT-3 or other large language models that are businesses that already exist. It's not like you can just start that business because that is the business. You know what I mean? It's mental.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah. Well, why don't you just do the same as this company and do exactly the same thing? And then there was another one. It was so funny. This guy introduced it, and the video was called something like "How to Make $8,000 a Week Using ChatGPT." And the guy introduced the video with a line that was very similar to this. He said, "Hey everybody, you might be aware that there's been loads of ChatGPT videos going around lately, and everyone seems to be jumping on the bandwagon telling you how you can make money with ChatGPT, and most of them are a load of rubbish. Now, I have to admit, I've made a few of those videos myself, but this one's different."
All right.
Oh. Yeah,
that's great. That's great.
Unbelievable. So on the one hand, the hype is definitely blowing conversational AI into the stratosphere and putting it into new communities. New people are becoming aware of it. The sacrifice of danger there is that maybe it creates unrealistic expectations from what these things actually do in production, especially for enterprise. And also, is there a risk, do you think? I definitely think that this is the case. I'd be curious to get your thoughts. When NFTs go through that hype, and when crypto goes through that hype, and when Web3 goes through that hype, and the metaverse goes through that hype, it can kind of I think give people the wrong impression. It almost can seem a little bit scammy, like it's a bit of a scam. Yeah. And my kind of fear deep down is that like the thing that we've all been working on for well more than half a decade, for those of us like yourself that have been doing this for a while, the little fear in the back of my mind is it good for the conversational AI kind of movement, or is it going to create that kind of feeling amongst people that actually this is all kind of a bit of a get rich quick scam, and it's all a bit of an empty promise?
Got it. That's actually a good thought right there. So I'll say that for me, I hope and I believe it will be rather a good in the long run than a bad. I think like short term it will be similar, where we'll get this again high, go down, but then steadily will go up again. And the technology itself is beautiful, and there's indeed ways in business as it was with chatbots before. So like it's just our goal, the goal of our industry again is to educate businesses of how to use it properly, right? And kind of bring that education to all of the world. This is a scam, and this is what we can do, right? This is how we can actually use it in your business, in whatever. Bring that value for your users and not get $1,000 a day from this new cool business that you launched in a week, right? But actually, in the long run, you will get a very clear benefit from such a fantastic technology, I think. So again, I think it will be complicated for sure for us but in the long run, again, I believe that this will be rather a good thing for the industry and kind of another, not refreshment, I'd say, but at least back on top of people's mind, especially now with this like unfolding recession. People are talking about it a lot, so maybe people will start thinking about chatbots again. And they will come to us and they will say, I want something, I want GPT-3, and we'll have a chance to explain. I don't think ChatGPT here today, right? You need this and that. We see that you have questions that are more popular for you, so let's concentrate on this and see like how will that work. Works great. Everyone is happy and people got educated and have these success stories, and of course always good for the industry. So that's kind of my vision.
Have you been experimenting with large language models from a product perspective with Botscrew?
Yes, we actually have been experimenting with it for a while already, even like the GPT-3 version, but we do have commercial cases with that, where one of them is more of, we use specifically GPT 3.5 for more of the fun reason, where we have kind of, actually our customers from the and they have a really structured flow. This is the existing chatbot. And then in one part of the flow, we have this kind of gamification aspect of it where we say, so I am this kind of character anyway, and you can ask any questions in the world that you think of asking. And say ChatGPT or GPT 3.5 to answer this question as this character, of course, with some filters there. And it's kind of a fun experience. So that's kind of one. For a better natural language understanding. So we have again an existing chatbot that is customer service chatbot actually, and we were using Dialogflow to understand user intents, and now we tried GPT 2.5 natural language understanding aspect, and it works quite well for us. 2 times more kind of confidence from right responses in a way, like right understanding of the intents, and it requires less training data, of course. So yes, we are using that already, but not kind of across all of our, adding this to our portfolio.
And what's that use case then? What kind of industry and kind of use case is that? Could you share a bit more?
Sure. So this first industry and use case is the, actually this is the startup from the UK. They're called Maze. And what they're doing, they are allowing people mazes across London where they have a chatbot who will provide them some hints and clues, etc. And they should answer and solve some puzzles. And after they solve the puzzle, they go to that place in London or that place in London and visiting specific restaurants. So again, that's a great tool for team buildings where again you go through this, the escape rooms.
Yeah. I was just going to say it sounds like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's more about around the city if you're kind of doing that. And the chatbot is the main user interface, and this is where we added this aspect of ChatGPT. So that's one. One is in e-commerce customer service automation is the personal beauty company, and they're automating their customer service. Again, this is the real working chat. We got some good rates of automation, but we wanted to, they wanted to, and we wanted to test natural language aspect of ChatGPT within their chatbot to see how that would work for them. So that's kind of 2 use cases for now.
Nice, interesting. That's good. I mean, a lot of the sort of platform providers have I know it's early days. Everyone's experimenting with it, but
Yeah,
not everyone has kind of gone to the point where they've put it live in a public-facing
yeah.
situation yet. You know, a lot of them, for example, like VoiceFlow, have put it to us in a situation where, as a designer, you would use it to help you create, help you generate sample
Awesome.
utterances, help you generate
Yeah,
response variations.
yeah.
Cognigy had a webinar today where they presented using ChatGPT 3.5 in a very similar way as you've just described there, which is handling the conversation when the conversation goes off the rails,
Yeah.
and a few other use cases as well. But obviously, that's just an announcement. There's no live cases there, so you've kind of I know we've only just started kind of really exploring how companies are really implementing this stuff, and we're kind of in, I would say, maybe three or four episodes into that now. We've got a lot coming up. We've got Core here coming up. We've got Cognigy coming up. Core AI coming up. Um, so we're definitely kind of probing more into that. But from your perspective, given that you've gone live with it,
Yeah.
what are some of the considerations, rather than it being either a demo or something behind the scenes for designers? What are some of the considerations to have when you're going to go live with something that has GPT-3 infused within it? Because it can be a bit unpredictable, can't it? Like, what are your key
Yeah.
considerations for that?
That's a really good point. So, like, first for the um, project, it's still not live, so that's kind of the announcement, I'd say,
Hmm.
and they're going live pretty much next week, I think. So no data for that there, but what we did there is that kind of we at the very specific place where we will send the message from the user to ChatGPT, we tell the user that, hey, this is the only place where we do that, and we say that, hey, so this is the ChatGPT like GPT 3.5, so like disclaimer, I'd say, so they know what
Yeah.
to expect, so they're not kind of really triggered by that. For the more business use case, I would say that, like, you have to be. My recommendation again is to use that much more about um, kind of understanding natural language rather than creating the responses, because we're using the
Right.
same responses that we used for the previous chatbots, so they're kind of controlled, and we do not allow GPT 3.5 to be too creative. So we say look for responses here only from this knowledge base, and say like your goal is to only identify the intent, right?
Right.
If you identify the intent right, then match it to one of those responses, and that's it. And that's the only kind of use it for. And that's where I think it shows this power in a more safe manner, because there, like, customer wanted to also scrape their website and kind of with ChatGPT and do all sorts of stuff like that, automatically generate responses. And we said, no, we don't want to do that, at least at this point, before it's kind of maybe tested well enough. So yeah, again,
Yeah.
we used intent that we had before and existing responses to only understand natural language better.
Right. So I've seen examples of this where, for example, to recognize the intent, you would, and people can try this at home, you would give ChatGPT a list of current intents. Let's say your assistant has 50 intents. Just the name of the intents, provide that to ChatGPT, and then give it an utterance and
Yeah,
ask it which intent it maps to. And the results are absolutely unbelievable, and the confidence score that it gives as well,
yeah.
just by giving the name of the intent, zero training data, just the name of the intent and a sample utterance, is incredibly accurate.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable. It's almost as if training data for language models basically won't be needed anymore.
exactly. And that's a very good point. And that's what we did as well. We gave two user phrases as kind of examples for ChatGPT anyways, but it's kind of like you are hiring a person who already knows stuff, so you don't have to explain what are the ways of asking what is the status of my order. You give it just, if someone asks you about the status of your order, you always go to this message, and that's it. You don't have to give this 20 different variations of the same question anymore. And this is just kind of beautiful news for us, because it saves so much time, and I see big potential there.
It's yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Shout out to Rajat, who said hello on LinkedIn. If there's a few people tuning in on LinkedIn here, if you've got any questions for Max or myself around large language models and stuff like that, put them in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to them. Yeah, it almost seems to me, and I've mentioned this a number of times. I gave a talk in 2021, I think it was, which was looking at the future of conversation design. And at the time, I was speaking to companies like Gotta AI, Zero Shot Bot, Vlooper, Hyro, and all of those platforms. They don't really use intent-based NLU systems. It's all transformer-based, not necessarily OpenAI's language models. There's obviously other language models that they'll be using under the hood. And my conclusion at the end of 2021 is that essentially the NLU component will become commoditized. And a
Yeah.
conversation designer's job is going to be basically more about making sure the end experience is the right kind of experience, managing things like potential hallucinations,
Yeah.
managing things like the analytics and the progress through the conversation and fixing issues and sourcing and writing proper copy. If you've got a knowledge base that's not created for conversation, taking that knowledge base and turning it into conversational responses based on the notion that the NLU will become commoditized. It seems to me that LLMs, given that you can accurately identify an intent with very
Yeah.
few shot learning sample phrases,
Yeah.
has basically commoditized NLU. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally agree, and I think that's a great summary. Great summary.
Yeah, interesting. Cool. So talk to us then about we'll come back to LLMs and stuff like that if anyone has any questions on it. But we started the conversation there talking about the war in Ukraine. There's been other big events that have been happening. Maybe it's not quite to that kind of scale for the Ukrainians, but obviously there was COVID just before it, and it
Yeah.
seems now that I don't know, every couple of weeks or every month or so that there's something happening like a
Yeah.
crisis going on. Obviously, the Ukraine war is dwarfing a lot of other things, but kind of like generally speaking, in the last few years, there's been a hell of a lot going on. And yourself and Botscrew has kind of been right in the midst of all of that, catering for in these situations, providing conversational AI solutions to assist in these times of need, and it kind of gets really to the heart of some of the value that this technology can play. So I wonder whether you can talk us through some of those use cases and some of them examples.
Sure, totally. So I do agree. Kind of, we are lucky to be in Ukraine here for the last 3 years. We're kind of in emergency mode from COVID, and all of this chaos around what does it mean? Am I sick? What, like my stomach, COVID, whatever. Prior to 24th of February last year, when the war started, bombings, etc., etc. So we're kind of in this for a while, and we're just trying to do what we do best and kind of fit our expertise into all of this. And what we understood in that is that during these times of crisis and emergency, the information is really important, and time is kind of at the essence, like of the essence. So we have to do things and communicate changes or kind of news and events very quickly and to big groups of people, very diverse people with different kind of needs. So, for example, when kind of the war started here, of course, our media, radio, all of them were kind of talking about what to do. So go to shelters, like bomb shelters, kind of take the necessary stuff with some food, whatever, for a couple of days, etc., etc. But people still, of course, get questions. Like they have some questions. For example, one of their recommendations was to try and move from eastern parts of Ukraine to western parts of Ukraine, to the more safer areas. But people just don't know how to do that. Like I don't have any kind of people that I know there. And I'm sure that there are kind of millions of people going there right now. So there is definitely no place for us to stay whatsoever. So and I didn't have anyone to ask. And if you call some hotlines, of course they're over capacity because millions of people are getting this problem right now. You cannot do anything, you cannot hire another million people right away. So that's where this personal communication at scale is a very clear value. And kind of, again, my opinion is that chatbot is the most appropriate user interface and the tool for that. Because pretty much you can build these personal conversations quite quickly at scale again, and add this content and use and update it really fast. So real world example that was there. So the war started 24th of February. The very same day, we got a call. My partner, his name is Lazar, got a call from Lviv IT Cluster. Is this organization that kind of is a cluster of IT companies of our region, of Lviv region. So like this organization got a call from our head of state administration saying, so tomorrow we will have at least 100,000 in Lviv. There will be kind of adults, kids, families, all sorts of people, and they need to find accommodation, right, with no exceptions. So go and figure something out, right? So that's kind of how it works in this situation. You don't really know how to manage them, so you just say what we need, and you figure it out. So they kind of came to us because we already worked with them on one project. They said that, hey, we have this problem. What do you think, guys? And we decided that maybe there is a chance to actually build a chatbot like that. So we had a team of 3 people of our team, Andrei, who is our developer, Anka, conversational designer, and Darina, who is our. And by 10 a.m. in of the 25th of February, so less than 24 hours, we had a chatbot that was both on Facebook and Telegram that was able to connect people who are willing to provide their housing, right, from Lviv, like from western parts of Ukraine, to those who are fleeing their homes to kind of find the houses in this region, right? And from this story, again, less than 24 hours, we already got this solution that both parties, right? So people who are fleeing can clearly can register, let's say, open Facebook Messenger or Telegram. Telegram is a very big channel, messaging channel for us here. That's why we chose it. And they just put their kind of name, phone number, and number of people who would like to have something. And from the other side, people who are willing to provide their houses or rooms, whatever, they can just say that, hey, I have a room of this and this, as well register. And then they were kind of automatically connected. So each person who is trying to find a house would get 3 recommendations based on their filters, and actually got the kind of contact details of the person who can host them. And I think like the latest number that I remember was 60,000 people potentially found this accommodation during this stressful period. Because again, when this emergency happens, all you feel is fear, uncertainty, and information overdose, because like the information is coming from everywhere and you don't really know what to do. Kind of you have your backpack with all the necessary stuff, documents, and kind of your family, but like what to do next? And like on TV, on media, they will not tell you that, because you cannot provide that message to all of the people, because you have to only provide these key things. And that's where, of course, we see the benefit of tools like chatbots very clear. So under 24 hours, we have a chatbot that connects people and families to find their houses. It's really easy to add more and more kind of features there. And again, have all of the benefits of the simple interface of the bot. No need to install anything, no need to learn the interface of this app. And also what's also important is you don't need to have really good internet connection, like to download the apps, etc., etc. So you can do that on the go. So this is where conversational AI specifically is very helpful. And
unbelievable. That is first and foremost, that is a commendable and fantastic use case, and a commendable act to get it set up. And I think there's a number of things that kind of fire in my brain there. One is, there is absolutely no way that this would have worked without it being a conversational interface. Yeah. Because if you look back at COVID, I don't know what it was like in Ukraine at the time, but it took the UK months and months and months and billions of pounds. I don't know if maybe that's a lie. It might not be in billions, but it was definitely millions to build an app, which was a COVID tracker app. By the time it was ready and got through certification and got through the App Store, COVID was pretty much not over, but it was the need for it completely died down and hardly anyone used it. Massive waste of money. Being able to build a conversational interface that does everything you need it to do and just slip it into an existing channel that everyone's already got access to is one of the single most valuable parts of that kind of conversation. It's getting something ready in 24 hours is absolutely that is unheard of in the kind of app development or even website development space.
Yeah, you won't be able to do that without kind of proper planning, budgeting, requirements and stuff like that. Designs are more complicated, I would say, for all of these interfaces. So definitely conversational AI is the best tool here. Again, as you mentioned, totally agree here. Time is of the essence. So if you do not do it now, tomorrow it's not necessary, right? And the information will update so fast, especially with COVID too. For example, when we had COVID, we had the same experience kind of here, similar to what you were saying, but information was changing really fast, right? And people kind of needed this information right away. So hospitals and doctors were overwhelmed with calls too, with the questions. Again, I have a stomach, my stomach hurts, whatever. I definitely have COVID. What should I do? And also like stuff like that. So it brings us this ability to build much quicker and when it's needed, instead of having that a couple of weeks from the moment when it's needed.
Yeah, that's wicked. So, walk us through how it kind of worked then. So, I get the concept. I'm probably missing a couple of details. So, for those people who were moving kind of east to west, they've got a very short-term notifications come out from the government, kind of start moving. They don't know where they're going to go. They don't know where they're going to stay. There's people in the West who have accommodation or spare rooms or whatever like that. They're up for kind of, having people stay there. What specifically happens? Because you must presumably well, I don't know. You can tell me. How does the pairing work? So I text it and I say, "There's me and my family. There's 3 of us in total. 1 kid. We need somewhere to stay." What happens to that message then? Like, how does that message get to somebody else? Do you just, do you send a message to everyone who's registered their interest and say, look, someone's looking? Or do you have a separate place where you can have a register of everyone who's looking? Like, how does that connection work? 'Cause it seems as though you're going to have thousands of input from both sides.
Yeah, exactly.
And with a conversational interface, with that much data, how do you do the job of matching them together? I don't quite get it.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, how it works is we have, again, of both parties, those who are moving, those who are willing to host. And if we have any request matching, we have the kind of matching the criteria. I am moving to the western parts. I say I need to host 3 people for 2 days. This is my contact details, right? So either immediately, right after this message, I get 3 proposals from the database of the people who are willing to host me, right? With the description that, hey, this is the place, my name is Max, and I have 1 room, or I have whatever, right? So that matches your criteria. Click and choose. If there are no options at all available, then we say there are no available options, and as soon as they will be there, we will send you a notification. So that's
right. Right, fair enough. That makes sense then. Yeah. So it's all done by this database. And I suppose it doesn't necessarily matter about being super accurate. It matters about being accurate, but it doesn't matter about being kind of like typically with let's just take, for example, if people weren't going to use a chatbot and they were going to use something else, like let's say that Booking.com or Airbnb enabled this feature for you to list your house for free.
Yeah.
In that situation, you're going to have thousands of houses to look through. And what websites tend to try and do is give you every possible option and then make you filter it down. Whereas in this situation, how did you approach that kind of scaling down? Did you just say like, okay, in this database, there's 10,000 people who actually match this request. Let's just skim the first 3 and send the first 3. Once they're gone, we'll move down the list. Like, is that the process, or did you have another process?
So that's actually, I have to say that this was the decision. These were the decisions made by the team who was doing that. So again, of the developer, QA, and conversational designer.
Yeah.
So this is all what they came up with. So we didn't
Right.
help them much, to be honest. And this was their decision. I think the decision was a good decision, because our goal is to get to the booked houses, kind of people having their houses as soon as possible. So you don't want to show all of the lists, like filters through stuff, the kind of apartments with the best view. Like, you just want to stay somewhere, right? And the faster you get there to that point, the easiest. And we just give 3 options, just what can happen, for example, that this apartment that I wanted, I got the details I'm calling, and it's already busy because that host forgot to say that it's already taken. You can do that from the bot. You can delete apartment as available from the bot. And that's why we give you 3 options. Maybe this person is not taking their phone, whatever. So, and that's it, right? And then if that doesn't work, then you can kind of ask for more. But I'll say our key goal is to find the place to stay for the night or 2 as soon as possible. And that's why we gave these 3 options right away.
That's wicked. So presumably then you give 3 options. Someone says, yes, option 2 is good. That then goes back to the database, removes that option, and there's a flag there that says text the person whose option this is and tell them that this person wants to stay there. Here's a phone number. Call them, arrange it, kind of thing. Yeah. Wicked. That's really good. Okay. How did that get adopted? How did people know to actually use it?
Honestly, quite easily, because like the interface was quite simple. It's like a conversation again. Our institutions helped us with promotion of this tool. We didn't have to do much. So like our local governments had like on official page that now we have this chatbot, we can find house to stay at, right? And that's pretty much it. And the conversational flow was quite easy to understand for everyone. And what's kind of important, I don't know if you know that or not, but chatbots and messengers in general are quite oftenly used here in Ukraine. So we had a lot of chatbots before even we have the chatbot called bot, which is the government bot that helps you to find information about certain business entities and stuff like that, or about yourself, like many stuff, like governmental app, pretty much. So we are used to the conversational AI as interface, and that's why we didn't have any trouble with that. Plus, we had this nice, as always, quick replies, and the process was really well structured. So we didn't allow for much free text input that I can say big kind of text with my problems and my specifications of the house that I'm looking for. Strictly. Do
you have anything with a pool?
Something like that. So yeah, it was quite a good adoption, I'll say. So and we're really happy with it.
That's good. I do think that, if we were around the clock and we went back to COVID, instead of these apps, if there was just a WhatsApp chatbot which just allowed you to ask questions, get answers, you text it, your location or a picture of where you are, and I don't know, that wouldn't work, but find a way of sending coordinates to where you are when you check in somewhere. Because what it was, when you check into a pub or whatever, and someone else checks into a pub, if they test positive, then you get pinged or whatever it was, you know what I mean? You could quite easily get to a pub and just text it and say, this is where I am. And then if someone else who's texts it again 2 days later says, I've got COVID, then it can figure it out. It seems like a real missed opportunity, that. But I don't think in the UK and Europe well, not you, because Ukraine's in Europe, but I mean, like, our kind of immediate neighbors, Germany, France, Spain. I don't think that the adoption of this stuff is quite the same. People know what a chatbot is, kind of, not everyone, but most people. Everyone does use Messenger, like Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or whatever, but we don't have the same kind of presence for chatbots. So, but I wonder whether that was part of the adoption, or whether it was just because it's easy to use and it's there, and there's a real need. The need drives the adoption more than anything else, doesn't it?
Totally. Yeah, we didn't have to sell any design and have them right. Even like maybe I don't want to tell that as the founder of the chatbot development company where we offer conversational design services, but we didn't do a lot of character or like tone of voice stuff because we just didn't have time. Like just make the conversational flow as easy as possible and as simple as possible. So maybe actually that's true too. And I'll say for what you mentioned for COVID, actually this is something I think World Health Organization had a chatbot for COVID on WhatsApp, right?
I think they did, yeah.
Yeah, they did. It's like it was also quite a. I think they launched it in around April or something, 2020. So 4 months after it started actively.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that was mainly for FAQs and stuff, wasn't it?
Totally.
Like symptom checkers and stuff. Whereas the apps that were being built were all about tracking, like who's got COVID and have you been near them, kind of thing. And obviously, I know they were trying to use the geolocation of your phone and stuff like that, and coordinate it that way. Just seems to me that like with a bit more thought, you probably could have done that with a chatbot a little bit easier.
And actually, funny you mentioned that, because that other project that we did with that same kind of IT cluster and our local government was the chatbot, which was called Temperaturka. It's like a fever, and it was done for that purpose. So we had the myth buster, of course, because there were many misinformation in the world, right? Having like what is COVID, what is not, and that you can get COVID if you touch this table. That's it, you're sick, whatever. But like we were doing that, had the FAQ part, but we also had the part where with the symptom checker, like we also developed this local chatbot for Facebook Messenger, where you can start using it in Ukrainian, and then you kind of tell your symptoms. We kind of, the guidelines from World Health Organization will tell you kind of how likely you are that this is COVID, and kind of some, of course, basic recommendation. We cannot give them guidance whatsoever, but we also kind of ask them to put their kind of feeling, like message us how they feel over time. So every day they would get a reminder. If we saw that this person had a fever, for example, of 37.5, first day, we asked them the next day again, the next day again, and the next day again. And then we got this anonymized data that we've shown kind of to internally for our government, where they can see which, because we also asked for location actually, where they can see where the spike might be bigger or not, because this was important data for the city to have. And also with the data of that kind of journaling your symptoms, so we were asking the same questions every day. So are you coughing? Like, do you have a sore throat? Fever again, right? And with that journaling, they will be able then, the users, go to the doctor and already show them their history kind of. So they know that they had this fever yesterday, before that, a week before, like, etc. So they can see the progression already. So that was also quite an interesting experience for us. But like,
wicked.
Yeah.
So go on, but like.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that it was, again, having a lot of users at the beginning, but then it went down quite quickly with all the changes that were happening and the actually other programs that the government launched. But again, we were, I think, the first ones who had something like that to the market, at least here in Ukraine. Right?
That's the thing, though. Like, conversational AI applications like this don't have to be something that are there forever. Like, it's fair enough if you're, I don't know, Waitrose or, Walmart, you might want a constant presence for over time for all of your customer needs and stuff like that. But I think this is a really great example of conversational AI being so accessible that you can spin something up, have it solve a purpose, and then wind it down. And it doesn't have to exist forever. It just needs to do the job it needs to do at the right time, serve the right people. And that's the value of being able to kind of spin up these things quickly, And again, this hasn't been possible with any other technology type before, has it?
That's a very, very, very true. So again, it can be there for just this emergency timeline when you need it, and that's it. Emergency is over, hopefully, and kind of you can keep going with your lives. If not, what you can keep doing is, of course, based on this initial data that you gathered, you can kind of keep updating users about changes in COVID rules, whatever, or kind of new findings by who, right? This kind of stuff. So you can keep the audience informed on this personal level. But as you mentioned, for some cases, it's just not necessary. So it was there for 2 weeks, boom, served the purpose, goodbye.
Yeah, and you've touched also on something that is crucial for all conversational AI applications, and it's partly sometimes the value in that is better than the actual experience or the need it solves, which is the data that it can gather.
Yeah.
You're kind of saying there, if you're checking on people's temperature, you know their location, you can profile areas and down to a postcode level. This postcode or these 5 streets have got an outbreak. Let's get a message to the people in the surrounding streets saying stay indoors or whatever the procedure is at that point. You know what I mean? Like getting the data from these conversational AI systems is just as important.
Totally agree. Because like it's a really easy way, quite engaging way of getting data from important data from the users in the time when you need it. Because like you would not achieve that with the website, even with kind of some kind of a forms, Google Forms. No one would kind of try and use Google Form and fill it out, go to this link, etc., when you can have it all in your existing app, which is very easy to use for anyone.
Yeah, definitely. That's
You
wicked.
have to
I love
register.
that.
So,
Yeah. No account creation,
exactly.
no signing into Google,
Yeah.
none of that rubbish. It's really interesting because all of the things that over the years I've kind of been pressing at for the value of conversational AI is kind of, it's evident with all chatbots. It's evident with all voice assistants, with the companies that use them. It's obvious. You can meet users where they are. You can make things accessible for everybody. You can generate immense data that you can't generate on other channels. You can make changes quickly in real time. There's all these benefits, but all of a sudden, when you condense something into a 24-hour period because you have to meet the needs of the 100,000 people that need emergency assistance, all of that gets compounded and conflated, and the benefits become kind of that's basically in a nutshell the value of conversational AI, isn't it? In total.
Sure. Yeah. And especially it's very clear during this emergency situations, right? It's right there.
Yeah. Is the one that was pairing kind of those that needed housing with those that have housing, is that still live or is that no longer needed?
It's no longer needed. So it was live for quite a while actually, but it's already been a year since the war. I think that 14 million people fled their homes in general. So 8 people to the kind of safer parts of Ukraine, I would say, and 6 people abroad. And I think now nothing kind of happened. So it was quite fast. So from the period when it started to the period when many people moved, the majority of, say, 99% moved, was a couple of maybe months, not more than that. So now it's just not necessary.
Mad. Again, it's wicked. And I think the take home for a lot of people from this is that, you've outlined basically the 2 biggest things probably that have happened in the world in the last kind of like 3 years: COVID, global pandemic, the war, which is, although it seems as though on the face of it it's between Russia and Ukraine, the reality is it's not. It's a global staged war that everyone's involved in some way, shape, or form, whether it's providing aid and support or whatnot. So it's kind of like the 2 biggest events that have happened this decade, in the last decade or in the last however long, have happened in quick succession. But it's kind of like, it's proven that there's value in this solution. And for everyone else who's kind of, maybe is either in the US or Western Europe or whatever, who might not necessarily have these real emergency situations that are at the scale of this, I think it still goes to show that you can spin this up very quickly. If you identify the right use case, you can have it solve a very specific problem, and I think it kind of helps people to maybe try and break out of this thing, which is, as Tesco, we need to have a customer service chatbot that's there all the time. You obviously do need to do that, but what about if you just had a chatbot that was there to do one specific sales promotion, or it was there to do one specific thing around,
Yeah.
utility companies right now. Perfect use case. Send a text message to every single one of your customers and ask them, are you struggling to pay your heating bills right now? And in minutes, you can have a profile of households down to a postcode level for those that are actually struggling. And then you can use that data to mobilize yourself to be able to provide further support. And it doesn't have to be something that exists forever. You could use it once next week, take it down, and then act on the data.
Yeah.
There's all
Totally.
kinds of areas where these principles that you've kind of shared today can be used for
Yeah.
people.
Totally. And like again, there are these challenges that I mentioned, but like there are all sorts of emergencies happening all the time. Actually, like with some natural disasters or like whatever happens with like in certain regions. So things change, right? Things change quite like unexpectedly, and that's where you already have something where you need personal communication to many people and answer all of their questions very fast, and that's where chatbots can bring that value. And actually, we had a couple of even commercial chatbots that we did for COVID handling, for example, for the city of Chicago or for one of the airports in the US, where we also kind of, with the policies changing all the time, these airports wanted to open. The city wanted to kind of welcome tourists because they had all the rules already there and kind of vaccinations levels were quite high, but still the policies was changing a lot, and people who want to visit the city did not know if that's already possible, if the restaurants are open, if I can go to the theater, because like, why do I want to go and visit and travel to the city if everything is closed there, right? So that's where it also brings some commercial sense, because you bring that information fast enough, right? And people are making decisions based on that. So in this case, the restaurants are open, the events, like live events that are outside are open, so I can go and visit. Otherwise, I will stay home, and the city will not get another kind of visitor and spender for the city. And one of the latest one that I was really pleasantly surprised by was our big network of cinemas. So we have this big network in Ukraine called Planeta Kino, and what that did. So the work is in Ukraine is still there, but businesses are opening back again, right? Of course, we try to bring our economy back and to again have some money for the war, of course. And the cinemas are working, and because of the air raid sirens or stuff like that, or electricity outages, this cinemas might be kind of closing kind of time. So I had this experience when I went to the movie to finally watch something kind of back to normal, I'll say. And I was watching this movie, and during the movie, air raid alarm kind of started, and they had this big screen. First of all, before the movie starts, they have this big screen where they say, in case of air raid alarm, please make sure you scan this code on the big screen. And the big code was a chatbot in Telegram, and just let us know that we have this situation and air raid alarm, and we'll return your tickets, like the money, or you can choose any other movie. So they only showed this QR code specifically internally, so they did not publish it anywhere else. So it's kind of easier already to understand which topic this chatbot will cover, right? And easier, of course, to manage for the service teams because they are overwhelmed with calls again, of course. And as well, kind of people have really clear path already right away. And that's how I kind of got other tickets for another movie really fast. So even that, right? So see how well adopted chatbots are today in Ukraine, that movies can allow themselves to have them for a specific case like that.
Interesting. That's so good. It's really good. It is like it shows a sort of it's definite difference in maturity in terms of people's willingness and kind of like desire to interact with conversational interfaces. And again, I can't really compare it to the UK and say that the UK doesn't have the same sort of willingness. It's just that there isn't those type of solutions. We don't use Telegram, but there's there's WhatsApp and there's other messaging channels that we could quite easily use. It just seems to me that businesses are not thinking along those lines like they are in Ukraine. They're not really open. They don't understand, essentially, is what it is.
Yeah. And like that's our goal as like in the industry to bring that education, because till today, on the calls with potential customers, I'm getting some kind of, wow, chatbots can do that. I thought that they can only automate customer service and that's it, right? So they do not understand that you can use chatbots for so many other things, for education of your audience, right? Even for an lead conversion, just for fun. They have a whole startup built as a chatbot, right? So you just keep explaining that and just find ways where conversation is the best fit for your audience there and do it. It doesn't have to be specifically automation and saving costs. It can be, getting costs.
And in some cases, even if conversation isn't the best way specifically of doing it, the value is in the speed and the accessibility. Like that use case of pairing people together, I would argue that that's a conversational interface isn't necessarily the best way of doing that, because some people might want to see the place, have a look at it on a map, have more information. There's a lot of other things that a different interface could have brought to that engagement and that interaction. However, not every engagement, not every other alternative could have been instigated by just 2 clicks of your mobile phone. Straight to the app, bang, send a message. And not all could have been as easy to use and as simple. So even though the interface itself might not be like ideal, the other things are on the speed of getting it to market, the accessibility and the access point for customers, the familiarity of the access point, and the immediacy of the need trumps perfect user experience.
Totally agree, and especially with this emergency situations. Again, you're overwhelmed with everything already, and if you see some new interface that you have to learn, then where to click, how to filter, how to find, it just becomes even more overwhelming, right? So I don't know how to do that. I cannot do it. So just leave me alone. But is your favorite messenger? Quite easy to understand.
Wicked. Definitely very, very enlightening. Thank you so much, Max, for joining me. That's the perfect way to end it, I think. Very impressed. Perfect examples of use cases. Perfect fit from where conversational AI could really add value. Perfect mixture of real needs from customers and solutions provided. And I think there's a lot of learnings there that people can take away from this. One, yes, as we said, the speed that these things can be got to market, the value they can bring from an analytics standpoint, but also the kind of opening your eyes a little bit and understanding that these things can be transient. You can just create a chatbot for one thing, have it serve that purpose. Like in the cinema example, that's not going to be there forever. It's going to disappear. But it's serving a real purpose right now, and I think there's so much that everyone can take away from that. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Real pleasure.
No problem. I'll put the link to Botscrew into the show notes. It's botscrew.com if you want to go and find out more about that. Don't forget to go to the chatbot, the European Chatbot.com as well if you want to register to attend VUX at the European Chatbot Summit in March on the 16th. Promo code VUX EU23 to save 30%. Thank you all so much. Next week is a massive week. The people still tuning in on LinkedIn, there's quite a few of you still there. I want to tell you next week is a massive week. We have the CTO of Cohere joining us on the podcast to talk about the Cohere large language model infrastructure and some of the use cases that is enabling. And also we're going to have Core AI here as well, discussing how they're using large language models in their solution. And we're also going to hear from a startup called Noble, who has basically built a platform from the ground up on top of large language models. So some of the stuff we touched on today, perhaps, Max, we might get a little bit deeper into, and I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you all for joining me. Thanks very much, Max, for joining me as well, and we'll see you on the next one.
Have a good one. Cheers.